Awakened. The Five Elements. Part number 1. Self-Freedom from Our Spiritual, Physical, Actional, Mental, and Industrial Mental Conditions by Daniel Chaidez. Great minds discuss ideas, average minds events, and weak minds people. Socrates 390 BCE. Congratulations. We make choices, and you have chosen to start your self-freedom journey towards awakening. This is an inner mental strengthening journey. By embarking on it, you'll gain the knowledge and wisdom of learning the philosophy of self-awakenment. Okay, here is how the journey begins. This journey of self-improvement is not always easy, but it is a commitment we make to ourselves, a commitment to our own growth and well-being. Socrates was quoted saying, "Strong minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, weak minds discuss people." The point he was trying to convey was that our ideas, or lack of them, were portrayed in our conversations and the representation of our mindset. When one possesses a strong mind, it means having a mature mindset that looks beyond average discussions. Instead, it focuses on generating ideas and ways to make things better. An average mind is aware of things happening but tends to engage in discussions on social events and worries more about superficial reputation rather than pursuing improvement. Weak minds prefer to only discuss other people and their isolated problems without considering self-improvement or societal betterment. The ancient Greeks would combine words to form new ones to create new meanings, like the literal translation of philosophy combined philo, which is love, and sophy, which is knowledge. Combined, it meant to them to love learning by being open to new ideas, values, and traditions. Knowledge refers to gathering facts and information to acquire and comprehend a skill or ability. To be philosophical is loving to conclude with a probable outcome using reasoning conducted with rules, principles, and reality. The knowledge obtained aims for each individual to gain increased awareness of these ancient teachings by providing their mechanisms and techniques. The concept is to break away from ordinary thinking by having an open mind to contrary notions about cultural constraints to achieve self-freedom through self-awakenment. The following is my opinion based on observing nature's handling of life situations. In this video, I categorize natural elements into 5 debatable viewpoints relating to mental conditions. The information is theoretical and controversial, not intended to impose beliefs but to encourage opposing viewpoints. My goal is to shed light on what's most important, the self. Why write a philosophy book on mental health? Self-awakenment is a guide and a source of wisdom for those who seek to understand and overcome their mental struggles. Is mental health not a medical and psychological condition that necessitates professional intervention? Yes, indeed. While this is true, there is also a hidden dominant side within the realm of the mental mind that is rooted in ideologies, where ideas are the foundation of philosophy. Hence, it is important to outline a discussion on philosophical mental health that everyone can relate to. Philosophy pertains to our relationship with our thoughts, which subsequently spread to our actions and behavior, ultimately shaping our attitudes. Who is this book for? It is for the people who frequently say, "I can't." Self-awakenment is written on the concept that ideas are the basis for the people who say, "I can't." It is for the people who say, "I can't," even when there is a willingness, desire, and ability to do so, there is still powerlessness to do so. It specifically targets those who experience a desire to but then feel mental incapacity restricting from emotional distress rather than a physical disability or mental disorder. There is not a simple reason not to, but rather a seemingly invisible hindering force based on a closed idea of an irrational outcome, leading to a sense of remorse for their inability to act despite envisioning to do so, regretfully don't. This is not for the people who say, "I don't want to," as this is easy to understand and considered willingness. Even if the will is not to do something, it is still one's will. The "I don't want to," desire not to, wish not to, is a willing reluctance, meaning it is a choice or a result of a determined decision. The people who are willfully reluctant take into account all the facts and then decide not to do so, which should be the normality of reasonable thinking. If you tell someone to do something, then they have the right to say, "I don't want to." Rather, if you are capable of doing so but say, "I can't," then there exists a control prohibiting, and not a simple choice. The "I can't" is not a reluctance, but rather a helplessness inability to be able to go against one's desire. Even if one is fully capable and able to, one is still unable to proceed. In physical health. When one is physically unable or incapable or incapacitated, it is recognized as a disability. The disabled person mentally desires to do so, but the physical body cannot do so. The body has no control over the physical condition and is truly a disability. In mental health, when one is unable to have control over the condition or suffers from the condition, it is considered a mental disorder stemming from a biological, situational, or ideological condition. The biological, as complex as it can be, is explainable with genetic inheritable that the person has no control over the condition. Instead, this condition disrupts the functionality. The situational is also intricate but reasonable, occurring from an eventful experience that created traumatic pressure beyond normal circumstances or had constant pressure over time that has caused distress and harm to the mental functions. On the other hand, the ideological condition is the least discussed, yet it is the most severe. Ideology may be closely related to biology. The study of nature can also be closely related to the study of human nature, as ideas drive changes with action and behavior that impact lives. In self-awakenment, the mentality of "I can't" is considered a mental disorder that acts as a force restraining an individual, not due to unwillingness but instead confined by an ideology. Despite being fully capable and willing, mental constraint prevents individuals from easily explaining or pursuing their goals. Considering ideology as a mental disorder doesn't necessarily mean total suffering, as individuals may not realize they are suffering. Unlike physical pain, which signals an alertness, this mental disorder results in a comfortably numb state. Awakened. This refers to alertness and awareness that there exist conditions that derive from ideas and are considered the ideological condition that inhibits intellectual freedom, and that means choices. This, again, isn't the reluctance but rather a disruption to logic and a distress from decision-making that we don't see as a disorder but does disable one's progress. The intention and hope for this philosophical book on mental health is not for any agreement, rather, it is okay to disagree based on logic with the power to say, "I don't want to," rather than "I can't do so." The "I don't want to" is the logical outcome from deliberation, in which we can live with a choice, but "I can't, even though I want to," is one that will be filled with regrets and low self-esteem that can lead to bigger mental problems. "I can't do so" will be the disability, and never an individual or the idea itself, but rather the control it may have to keep one from reaching their full potential. The phrase used in Awakenment is to gain self-freedom with the power of self-awakenment to never stop self-improvement. Self-awakenment philosophy is based on the idea that various constraints or forces hold us back, causing us to say, "I can't," when we want to proceed. Be mindful that some aspects might be easier to comprehend than others, whereas this will be dependent on the individual's current state. Please try to stay on the path, even when there is an understandable disagreement, as this is a good thing to get the juices flowing. To comprehend that knowledge is a process in which facts, information, and skills are learned through experience or education, often is characterized as a true belief that is distinct from opinion or guesswork under justification. It is simply to know and understand facts about a topic to gain knowledge of a subject. The quest for knowledge is a never-ending journey, and the acknowledgement of this is philosophy, which is being okay with it. Nothing is new. What is considered a new idea is simply a rethought and repackaged idea. Thus, since humans first began observing and trying to comprehend life's purpose by interpreting professed stories, so began the ruling of knowledge and wisdom over the vulnerable and ignorant. Today, many of our modern-day beliefs and traditions still come from a time when we didn't have the competences of technology, and hypothetical that has been concluded from fundamental assumptions. Yet, with all the knowledge available today, many are still stuck in outdated beliefs and traditions that came from the time when we first started wondering about the world. If we can learn anything from history, it should be that ignorance is very dangerous when there is misinterpretation or a refusal to accept the truth. Instead, we prefer living in false statements, which are mistaken for loyalty. Ignorance is used as a tool or a weapon, and even when faced with facts and evidence or having a gut feeling that things don't make sense, there is still a reluctance to the true statement. We, humans, develop collective thinking as communal social creatures, meaning a pack mentality in which questioning can conflict with societal consequences. The pack provides support and protection in exchange for the collective submission release of independent thinking. There is a strong need to fit in with the pack, therefore exist social and cultural pressures, with influences of acceptance. That's why often, it is easier to avoid conflict by simply accepting a false statement and normalizing it with traditions rather than challenging them. Whether we believe Earth's or human history is thousands, millions, or billions of years old, no one alive knows for sure what happened or if it matters. The past had action to bring you to this moment, but its effect is irrelevant to our lives as we are born to experience the present. Ultimately, our life comes down to a small piece of space and time on this planet. Much of the debate is significantly based on the past, which is important to understand, but it should be an acknowledgement of lessons learned, and the real focused energy should be on us now and how to collaborate as one to leave things better for future generations. Instead, if there was acceptance of the fact that there isn't only one way, nor one book, nor one person with all the answers, but rather that knowledge comes from a collective effort which has many different aspects. When a statement is true, then it can be scrutinized, tested, and still remain the truth, so don't hold too strong of a stance until you have evaluated and challenged it from all aspects for it to be, in fact, the truth. This video's efforts are to provide the mechanisms to have self-freedom by having the emotional liberation to say, I don't know, when faced with unknown or limited information on a statement. The freedom is to say, I don't know, when we don't have all the facts or are faced with limited ways of proving something, instead of the alternative of making up conclusions for the sake of concluding and then choosing a side with an arguing hypothesis, based on limited information just to feel right. In today's world, there is a notion that being content, complacent, or self-centered is wrong or that we should fear being this and instead do the contrary. But, if we think about these words, they should be the foundation of living our best and only life. The opposite of these words is not being content, which is happy, not being complacent, which is the awe of our accomplishments, or not focusing on ourselves, which is the only true control one has. To put ourselves first, many might think it means being selfish, egotistical, arrogant, or might even fear turning into a narcissist. Self-awakenment respects all isms, but isn't individualism, which does emphasizes being self-reliant and taking care of oneself first, but without the ism, meaning to also know the importance of the connection with others too. It isn't narcissism, which is actually recognized as a mental disorder that self-awakenment teaches the contrary, meaning a narcissist requires others' attention, lacks empathy, and falsifies their achievements. It also isn't atheism, which is choosing a side on a subjective topic or any other belief with ism absoluteness. Although there are positives and negatives to all isms, meaning a strong belief can be healthy, but not seeing beyond the belief is what can be harmful. Self-awakenment aims to teach the importance of taking care of the complete unit considered self. We see ourselves as one unit but are made up of billions of parts inside containing our spiritual beliefs, physical sensations, soulful thoughts, mental emotions, and motivational motion. All these aspects are connected to your mental and physical wellness. Therefore, self-awakenment is the belief in taking care of oneself first, with connections to the world, by working to be a better version of yourself. This better version of oneself benefits everyone, not just selfishness, as knowledge will be the true awakenment by being open-minded. The only real fear in life should be not really living our life but instead trying to live it vicariously through others based on their opinions. Benjamin Franklin famously said, "Most men die at 25, we just bury them at 75, which suggests many exist physically, but in adulthood, we are told what to dream, hope for, and aspirations. To think of being content, complacent, or self-centered, we should be proud of being and focusing on becoming a better version of ourselves. Happiness will be a side effect that will then advertently create positivity for everyone around us." The world has created the rat race of life, and they say being content or complacent won't win the race. But in the end, what will we really win? The real challenger in our lives should be ourselves, not others, as everyone else is merely a character in their own life, but in ours, we should be the main one. It is not telling anyone how they should live their life, rather, each individual has the choice to live how they wish. When we attempt not to be content, complacent, or self-centered, this allows more focus on others' needs, which becomes exhausting without any real benefit and instead has an impact on our mental health and wellness. The expectation is for this to be inspirational for someone to begin their own journey of the truth by never losing sight and real focus, which is to live your best life possible. The goal of self-awakenment is for each individual to seek knowledge as it is true freedom rather than be consumed with propaganda fallacies that require arguing endlessly. In its place, have a process for the truth instead of wasting time and energy searching with any statement or argument. To gain self-freedom, knowledge is to live a life with as many content moments as possible with the time we are given, rather than later realizing that our time is up. Thank you for watching. And, stay tuned for part number 2 of the Self-Awakenment Philosophy.